my life, my parents sidelined me, choosing to whisk my sister away on a lavish family getaway while I was stuck at home. But when she turned that trip into utter chaos, trash hotel rooms, furious confrontations with locals, and a shocking rest, it finally opened their eyes to her manipulative, self-centered ways, and they realized what I'd been saying all along. I'm 23, and my younger sister Lisa, who is 18, feels like the embodiment of mischief. For years, I tried to make my parents see what I did, but they never quite grasped it until recently. Our relationship has always been a bit difficult, largely because of Lisa. My parents adored her, especially since my mother had a miscarriage before Lisa was born, which left a deep emotional scar. Lisa, arriving a few years later, became their special child, a symbol of hope that eased their previous sorrow. They lavished her with affection, making her the focal point of our family's world. To be clear, I truly cared for my sister when we were little. It was as we grew that I began to notice Lisa's remarkable ability to manipulate, something no one else in our family seemed to pick up on. She was adept at twisting events to her advantage, and was a master at presenting herself as the wronged party. I recall one birthday when I received a beautiful antique pocket watch from our grandparents. I was thrilled, as my grandmother explained it was a family heirloom. Lisa, however, was clearly envious and repeatedly asked if I would share it. I declined, as it was my personal birthday gift. She tried to sway our parents, but since it was from our grandparents, there wasn't much they could do. That night, knowing my fear of spiders, Lisa placed a house spider inside my pillowcase, ensuring I would find it when I went to bed. I woke up screaming, feeling the spider crawling on my skin. My parents rushed in, full of concern. Lisa appeared, completely surprised and caring, but later, when we were alone, she admitted with a chilling smile that she had put the spider there to teach me a lesson. Her casual confession, devoid of any regret, was truly unsettling. Another time, I had a crush on a classmate named Mark, and finally found the courage to invite him over for a movie. I was so excited, carefully choosing a dress to make an impression. But the moment Mark arrived, Lisa intentionally spilled a glass of juice all over my dress, and then laughed. I was mortified, and had to change, trying to conceal my embarrassment. As if that wasn't enough, Lisa began sharing awkward stories from my childhood, making me feel utterly humiliated. She never left us alone while we watched the movie. When Mark was about to leave, Lisa smirked and told him he could do much better than me. Mark, who had seemed uncomfortable the whole time, left quickly. I just couldn't believe how unkind and clever my younger sister could be. Over the years, I told my parents about her actions many times, but they always dismissed it as her being young and innocent. They just couldn't see her for who she truly was. Whenever I voiced a complaint, they brushed me off, viewing me as the difficult one in the family. So, I eventually stopped talking about her. Lisa remained their favorite child, while I often felt like an outsider in my own home. I focused on my education and managed to get into a good college, which allowed me to move out and start a new chapter. However, every time I came home for breaks, Lisa made it very clear that she didn't want me there. She would deliberately ignore me, avoiding even simple conversations during family meals. She would not sit near me or interrupt if I was talking to our parents. Her constant effort to undermine my presence showed how much she disliked me being around and was determined to make my visits as unpleasant as possible. Lisa even used to tamper with my belongings, claiming she needed to borrow things but often damaging or losing them instead. My parents did nothing when I tried to complain and instead urged us to get along. As a result, I started avoiding coming home for breaks. I would make excuses to spend my time with my college friends' families instead. Frankly, my parents didn't seem to mind much, attributing it to me being independent and wanting time away from home. When Lisa finished high school, her grades weren't good enough for a 4-year college, so she attended community college instead. This meant she never had to move out of our parents' house. Nowadays, I work at a large company in San Francisco and genuinely enjoy my job. I occasionally keep in touch with my parents but rarely visit home. I have no contact with Lisa at all. Now, to the main part of the story. My father recently had a life-threatening heart attack. Fortunately, he miraculously survived and was taken to a hospital. When my mother called to tell me about it, I immediately booked a flight and went home to be with them. The doctors prescribed many medications for my father and strongly advised him to start exercising. Since being discharged, my father has expressed a desire to spend more time with us as a family and told me how fortunate he was to have been saved. I understood my dad's perspective, so I stayed at our house for a few days. My job offers the option to work remotely, so it wasn't an issue. However, I noticed that Lisa was very annoyed by my presence. I tried my best to avoid her as we were both older now and I didn't want to argue, especially after our dad's heart attack. One morning at breakfast, my father suggested we all go on a family vacation, as it had been a long time since we had all gone somewhere together. Initially, I had reservations, but knowing how important it was to my dad, I agreed. As for Lisa, she wasn't thrilled, but she had no choice but to go along with the plan. My father made all the arrangements for our flights and accommodations. I had planned my leave from work in advance and told my colleagues not to contact me during this time, as I genuinely wanted to enjoy quality time with our parents. However, when we arrived at the airport, I discovered that my flight ticket had been canceled. I exchanged confused glances with my father, who kept insisting he had booked and paid for my ticket. When we checked further, it turned out that of the 4 tickets, the one with my name on it had been mysteriously canceled. As I stood there, trying to understand the situation, I looked over at Lisa. She had a cunning smile on her face as she stared at me. It was a look I had seen so many times before, the same expression she wore when she had successfully carried out one of her deceptive schemes. I realized at that moment that she was the one who had canceled my ticket, probably from my father's computer. I started yelling at her as she continued to stand there smiling. I pointed out to my parents that it was Lisa's doing, as she never wanted me to go on this family vacation in the first place. Instead of believing me, my mother immediately dismissed my claim, saying, "Your sister would never do something like that." She went on to tell me that I should stop being jealous of my younger sister and that it was just an unusual incident that my ticket had been canceled. My father also tried to suggest that this might have been an airline mistake and that I shouldn't blame it on my sister. I was utterly frustrated that my parents couldn't imagine their beloved special child being behind such a trick. At this point, there was nothing I could do. My ticket was already canceled and there were no other flights for that day. While it was possible for me to catch a flight the next day, I didn't like the idea of returning home, booking a new flight, and traveling alone. After all, this was supposed to be a family trip. I was also dreading sharing a room with Lisa during this trip. I had hoped that she had matured over the years, but if she was behind the cancellation of my flight ticket, I couldn't help but wonder what other mischief she might have planned to make my trip unpleasant. My father was initially hesitant, suggesting they could all go back home and plan a new trip later, but he then started talking about how long it had been since he went on a vacation. My mother agreed, telling me that I always travel a lot for work, so I wasn't going to miss out on much on this trip if I didn't go. Their comments really affected me. It felt like they wanted me to encourage them to continue with this vacation without me. I told them that they were welcome to go on with their vacation if they wanted, and they readily agreed. Although I didn't want the money they had spent on the tickets and rooms to go to waste, I was sad that they didn't care whether I joined them or not. It became clear that they didn't mind going on this family vacation as a family of 3. So there I was, standing alone at the airport as my parents and Lisa headed for their anticipated vacation. I decided to return to my home in San Francisco, not wanting to spend another day alone in our family house. I tried my best to move past the incident and focused on enjoying the rest of my leave that I had already taken from work. I reconnected with old friends and spent my days immersed in books, turning my break into a solo staycation. During the trip, my parents would sometimes video call me, and I could see how much they were enjoying the trip without me. It was as if my absence didn't really affect their trip at all. Although I wasn't too heartbroken about missing the vacation, I couldn't help feeling excluded. It was yet another reminder of the favoritism that had always been present in our family. I hoped that someday they would see through Lisa's true nature, and I guess my wish finally came true. A few days into their vacation, I woke up to several missed calls from my mother. Worried that my father's health might have taken a sudden turn, I immediately called her back. Thankfully, she answered, but she sounded extremely upset. I asked her if everything was all right, and she went on to explain that something very concerning had happened. Apparently, my parents had noticed that my father's essential heart medications were disappearing day by day. It was an alarming situation, as my father couldn't afford to miss his medication given his delicate health. They were in a foreign country and didn't know if the same medicine would be available outside of the US. They were genuinely worried about the missing pills and searched their room everywhere without success. My mother had gone to Lisa's hotel room, which was next to theirs, to borrow some sunscreen. To her complete shock and dismay, she found all the missing medicines carefully put away inside Lisa's bedside table. It was a disturbing discovery, and she immediately called for my father. He rushed in and found all his medication that had gone missing over the last few days. I guess this is when the truth became clear to them. Their beloved daughter, the so-called special child, had been deliberately putting my father's health at great risk. My mother's voice trembled as she asked if they should confront Lisa about this. I asked her not to speak to Lisa about this until they were back home. They needed to gather their thoughts, emotions, and proof to face Lisa with the undeniable facts. I knew that speaking to Lisa then would be pointless, as she was a master at manipulation, and would likely invent excuses to avoid responsibility. However, something unexpected must have happened that night, and my parents must have confronted her about it. I received a late-night call from my father, his voice shaking as he told me that Lisa was in jail. I was taken aback. He recounted that Lisa had a complete meltdown when they asked her about the medications, throwing objects and shouting insults. Her anger was directed mainly at my father, accusing him of booking a ticket for me when he should have never allowed me on their family vacation. She told them that if they continued having a relationship with me, she would teach them a lesson they would never forget. Lisa continued to lash out, and the situation quickly escalated until someone from the hotel called the authorities. When the officers arrived, she refused to calm down and insulted them, which led to her being taken into custody. Lisa would be released after 24 hours, and there was nothing my parents could do at that moment. Desperate to return home after Lisa's release, my parents then tried to reschedule their flight. However, their plans were ruined when they discovered that their passports and wallets were missing. It turns out that Lisa had either thrown away their passports or hidden them, but for now, they were stuck in a foreign country with no passports or wallets. I guess this was the first time that my parents started to see my sister for who she really was. My mother, who had consistently defended Lisa for all these years, was now pleading with me for help, as they didn't have any money or their documents to fly out of there. She was overwhelmed, shocked, and distressed by the realization of her angelic daughter's true nature. I told them not to worry and that I would send them money using Western Union, but they had to find their passports first so they could return home. I was certain that Lisa hadn't thrown them away. My parents were finally realizing that I had been the honest one all along about her actions and were thankful that I was helping them out, despite them not taking me on this vacation. My parents apologized for their behavior. While a part of me wishes I could forgive my parents, it's hard to shake the feeling that I've been deprived of their love for all these years due to their favoritism towards my sister. So, I question if I'm wrong for not forgiving my parents, as they went on this vacation without me. And now that they are experiencing the consequences, they come back asking for my forgiveness. Update 1. Every day my parents call me with updates, and I am growing increasingly anxious about their situation. You see, after Lisa was released from jail the next day, my parents threatened her to give them back their passports, or they would call the authorities on her again. Faced with no other choice, Lisa eventually showed them where she had hidden their passports. Upon their return home, my parents confronted Lisa and made it clear that she needed to gather her belongings and leave. It had become very clear that they had reached their breaking point, finally realizing the truth about their daughter's manipulative and harmful actions. They worried she might jeopardize his health again by stealing his medicines. This started another shouting match between Lisa and my parents. During this confrontation, Lisa began to hurl accusations at my parents, expressing her anger and resentment. She told my parents that she didn't want to share them with anyone else, and claimed that she had been pushed to the limit when they invited me for the trip. She kept insisting that my parents should disown me, emphasizing that she was more than enough for both of them. It was at this moment that my parents must have realized the extent of her jealousy, and how much she resented my place in our family. While they tried to appease her, she kept yelling accusations at them, and in a moment of desperation and anger, she claimed that she would go around telling everyone that they had neglected her when she was a child, and mistreated her during her formative years. She was basically going to accuse them of parental negligence. Lisa then threatened to go to the police and make false statements against our parents if they continued to ask her to move out. This genuinely frightened my parents, as these made-up allegations would put them in a difficult position, particularly since they are well-respected doctors in our community. The mere thought of their reputation being ruined by false accusations has since left them feeling trapped and anxious. The past few days, Lisa has continued to make our parents' lives more and more difficult. When she found out that they were talking to me regularly nowadays, she got really mad and started breaking dishes in anger. What's worse, she keeps stealing their car keys and hiding them, which makes it hard for them to go to work every day. Just tonight, my mother called me in tears after another bad incident during dinner. Lisa had a big tantrum and yelled at them because she wanted my mother to cook for her. When she refused because she was tired from work, Lisa went on a rampage and started breaking furniture around the house. Then she went to her room and turned up the music really loud, which prevented our parents from getting a good night's sleep. The situation keeps getting worse, and it's taking a toll on my parents emotionally and mentally. I am increasingly concerned about what might happen next. While I had hoped my parents would see Lisa's true nature, I now worry that she could pose a real threat to them. I can't even return home at the moment because it might upset her further and lead to more explosive confrontations. I'm doing my best to persuade my parents to consult with a lawyer so we can find a permanent solution to this ongoing problem. The legal route seems like the best way to protect my parents and restore peace to our family. Update 2: Lisa has been arrested. As many of you predicted, with Lisa's increasing actions, this was bound to happen. One night, she came at our parents with a knife during a big fight. This terrified my parents, and they were forced to call the police. The officers quickly took her into custody, arresting her on charges of assault. With Lisa in custody, our parents decided it was time to pursue a more permanent solution. They consulted with an attorney who advised them on the legal process for evicting her from their home. They filed a formal eviction notice that stated she had to leave. They knew it wasn't easy, but it was necessary to make things safer. Our parents didn't want to continue pressing any charges on her as they just wanted her to move out. They bailed her out of jail and handed her a formal notice telling her she had to move out. It contained all the legal details explaining why she had to go and when she needed to leave. My parents made sure they did everything according to the rules so Lisa couldn't object. Next, they went to court with their lawyer to start the eviction process. It meant filing a lawsuit against Lisa. This was all pretty hard on my parents since it was their own daughter they were taking to court. They felt really sad, guilty, and like they had no other choice. The court finally issued an official order that said Lisa had to leave the house. If she didn't go on her own, they would have the legal right to make her leave the property. Lisa is going to be out by next week. My parents can finally breathe a sigh of relief knowing that they have taken a step towards getting their home and peace back. It's been a difficult journey, but they're hopeful that things will get better once Lisa moves on. I have stayed in touch with them throughout this difficult time and plan on bringing them over to San Francisco for a few weeks. It's a way to give them a break and let them relax after all they have been through. I am sure they could use a change of scenery and some time away from the stress Lisa has caused. Plus, it'll be a chance for us to spend some quality time together, and I want to support them as much as I can. Update 3. I have received hundreds of comments under my post, and it's taken me some time to read through them. Many of you have suggested that we should consider getting Lisa checked out to see if there might be a mental health issue at play here. The thing is that since she's an adult, we can't force her to go for a checkup against her will. Due to her sudden violent outbursts, we don't want to push her and make this situation more complicated than it already is. As I mentioned in my last update, my parents flew down to San Francisco to spend a few days with me. They are here to take some time away after what they went through the last few months. Yesterday evening, as we gathered around the dining table in my cozy apartment, my parents began to open up to me. Their voices were filled with humility and regret. They admitted that they had been blind to Lisa's true nature over all the years, and asked for my forgiveness. My father expressed his sorrow for not listening to my warnings earlier. He admitted that they never expected Lisa to turn out this way, and were unable to see the truth that lay beneath her charming appearance. My mother echoed my father's feelings and acknowledged the seriousness of their mistake in dismissing my concerns about Lisa's behavior over the years. Her voice trembled as she spoke of the pain of realizing how they had failed me by favoring her. I let them know that I appreciated them taking the first step in seeking my forgiveness. I shared several painful memories of the years of difficulty I endured due to Lisa's actions. My parents listened, completely shocked and upset at the extent of what I had gone through on my own. They acknowledged the pain I had experienced and expressed regret over the isolation I felt in my own family. My parents explained how their favoritism towards Lisa had clouded their judgment because they never expected to get pregnant with her and always considered her to be their miracle baby. With sincerity in their voices, they asked for my forgiveness for all those years. It was a mixed moment for me, as I had always wanted their acknowledgement. While it may not have been the ideal way to fix our relationship, it was a turning point that brought some much-needed honesty and clarity to our family dynamic. We were, for the first time in years, truly acknowledging the issues that had troubled our family. I told them that it would take me some time to trust them again, and we all agreed to work through this together. For now, I plan to make the most of the time I have with my family while they are here with me for the next few days. Update 4. As the days passed, my parents and I spent more time together, exploring the lively streets of San Francisco, enjoying relaxed meals, and simply cherishing each other's company. It has been quite a journey to reconnect with each other, rebuilding the bonds that had been weakened by years of favoritism and denial. I came to understand that their decision to seek comfort with me was not just about physical distance from Lisa, but a desire to rebuild the family they had almost lost. They needed a fresh start, and so did I. My parents and I have since discussed what to do with Lisa. She is currently staying at one of her friends' homes. We can't simply abandon her despite the chaos she has caused in our lives. As parents, my mom and dad feel a deep sense of responsibility towards their daughter, even if her actions have been inexcusable. We have come to accept the fact that her behavior might not be just intentional misbehavior, but might indicate deeper issues. We plan to explore the possibility of a mental health evaluation to better understand her condition. However, since Lisa is an adult, we can't force her into such an assessment and plan to find a way to encourage her to seek help voluntarily. My parents plan on reaching out to Lisa once they are back home to see if she is open to a discussion. I don't want to contact her because she still holds a strong grudge against me, and I'm trying not to worsen the situation for the sake of her mental health. Considering the past incidents of aggression and violence, I have encouraged my parents to meet her at a public place so that she would be forced to control her emotions. Our main goal is for Lisa to grasp our perspective, and most importantly, recognize the deep love and concern we have for her. It's not about assigning blame, but rather about coming together as a family to address the issues that have strained our relationships.